welcome everyone. I'm Linda and I'm the Director of Community Engagement for the BGLU. Welcome to the third part of our partner series called How to Become a Partner. Is there room for me at the table? Tonight, I have the privilege of interviewing an esteemed panel of partners who I will allow to introduce themselves. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll pick them up at the end. But if you have a burning question that cannot wait till the end, please do raise your hand and one of our speakers will answer your question. And finally, if you want to know more about the BGLU, please go to bglu.org. And you can also find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And I think soon TikTok to be down with the kids as well. All right, so let's get right into it. Can I get you all to introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about you and what you do on the virtual roundtable I've got? So first on my screen is Fadia. Can I come to you? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. My name's Fadia Smart. For my sins, I'm an employment lawyer with almost, I think, 16 or 17 years post-qualification experience, and I advise principally senior executives and SMEs on the whole gamut of employment law, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. In addition to doing that, I also am a diversity, equity, and inclusion trainer. So I work with organizations such as Berndean and Extensive, done the 1% report on going into organizations and providing training on things such as intersectionality, allyship, managing within the law, etc. And I also do public speaking engagements talking about these topics. So that's me in a nutshell. Thank you. Oh, actually, I've almost forgot the most important bit and why I'm actually here. I'm also a partner of a kind of, they call them challenger firms, Spencer West. So it's a place where we all kind of like almost work akin to barristers. So all of my work is self-generated. And I'm happy to talk about why I found, having done partnership in a traditional firm, that this model also suits me.
Thank you so much, Fadia. Can I come to you next, Eric?
Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Ao, and I'm a partner in the marine team at Kennedy's, and I'm based in London. I specialise in shipping and international trade, typically acting for ship owners, charterers, freight forwarders, and commodity traders. I also have a very keen interest in the decarbonisation of the maritime industry. And also for my sins, I actually sit on the advisory board of the Zero Emissions Ship Technology Association.
Wow, do a lot of things. Thank you. Can I come to you as well, Marcia? Thank you.
Oh, cool. Hi. Good evening, everybody. And thank you for joining this session. Hopefully we'll get lots of engagement and you can ask lots of questions. My name's Marcia Longdon. I am a partner at Kingsley Napley. I always say this bit, so everyone, if you've heard me before, you'll roll your eyes. But I was the first Black partner at Kingsley Napley, and I have been there for nearly 10 years now. I practice in the area of corporate immigration law, which I love completely. I have been PQE for about 23 years, I think. I'm also part of the American Bar Association's subcommittee to the Labour and Employment Section, Immigration and Human Trafficking Committee. I am not a lawyer in the US, but I am on the international side of the ABA. I am part of various committees. I do lots of speaking engagements around the world, quite frankly. And I find it a privilege to be invited here today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcia. I wonder how you all get time to do your day jobs. You do so much outside of work. Thank you. And Solomon, finally, can I come to you to introduce yourself? Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Solomon Weaver. I'm a partner at Wilkie Farr and Gallagher. Wilkie is an international law firm, corporate offices in the US and Europe. I was employee number 1 at Wilkie to establish the asset management practice. Prior to that, I was at another American firm called Wilkie Farr, not Wilkie Farr, Melvin and Myers. And I helped establish the London office of Melvin and Myers. I was there for 11 years. I've been a partner since 2006. And all I do is private equity and everything relating to money.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Solomon. That's really helpful. So just to kick off our questions, actually, it would be really great to hear about your respective journeys to partnership. So my first question really is, what were your journeys like to becoming partner, and what skill sets enabled you to make partner? Can I come to you first, Eric?
Thank you, Linda. First of all, I suppose I would say that achieving partnership is no easy task. Everybody has their own journey, and everybody's journey is different. My journey was bumpy, but by no means out of the ordinary. I moved straight into partnership, having been a senior associate for about 7 years. Now, I'm not going to go into my particular circumstances, but can make some comments of a more general nature. It's probably enough to say that there could be any number of reasons why someone might find themselves in a position where they might have to move sideways or move firm in order to move forward, that are completely separate to ability and performance. There could be politics involved. Every firm has politics to some degree, and various other factors that really ought not to form part of the decision-making process if we are operating within a meritocracy. So the skill set, I think, that one needs, or skill sets rather, first of all, I would say your product, so your legal skills, you have to be the best in class. Now, my mother famously said to me, you know, you really ought to strive to be twice as good as your competition at worst, and up to 3 times ideally. So unfortunately, mediocrity has no place here whatsoever. You know, the idea that you can be mediocre because some of your contemporaries are, I think, is misguided. They might have other aspects in their favor that you don't have. You need a healthy dose of determination, and I don't say that lightly. I have contemporaries at my level of PQE, which is about 14 years, who've had to seek professional help, so counselling, as a result of how difficult this process has been and how it's affected them. And some of those contemporaries have made it, and some have chosen other paths. Situational awareness, I think, is a key skill to have. And that's a difficult one, because that's not something you really get taught. If you have parents that move in the right circles, you might pick up the skill by osmosis. But you need to have an idea of the environment you're working in, you know, the decision makers and the people you need to speak to and have on your side to advance your cause. Because I think various of the my co-panelists would agree with me that normally in a partnership you need to have a supporter, so someone within the partnership already, more likely than not someone with whom you've previously worked, who essentially vouches for you. Now, no matter how good you might be, in some firms, if you don't have a supporter, partnership is not going to happen for you. So you need to be cognizant of that. And I'd like to finish on a more positive one. I would say adaptability and sense of self-worth. Now, to explain that, I mean, understand the strength of your offering. So whilst some people might have had the conventional route through to partnership, you know, trainee, associate, senior associate, managing associate, partner, people's courses aren't always that smooth. So you really need to have a solid client base, and that's something you should have been building up from when you were a junior lawyer. Your figures need to stack up, and your business plan for growth need to be spot on, I think, to even get a look in. And I would say that moving sideways, which is what, or moving firm, sorry, whether that's moving sideways, so into the same position at a different firm to then progress, or moving to a different firm straight into partnership, as I did, is perhaps slightly more difficult, because you will be an unknown quantity to an extent to the firm that you're going to. They might not be aware of your stellar reputation. So in that situation, your figures, your client base, and your business plan really do need to stack up if that's the path that your career takes.
Thank you, Eric. That's really helpful. And we're going to touch a bit more about strategies later on. So that's really helpful. Can I come to you, please, Fidia? Same question about your journey to partnership and skill sets that enabled you to make partner.
Sure, thank you. And I thought Eric's answer was perfect. Just to share my personal experience, when you asked what was the journey like, I would say not without difficulty. Sadly, I qualified at a time where they brought in the introduction of tribunal fees. So I was on partnership track, and I was being told, look, next year your figures are great, we're really looking forward. And then, 50% of my client base were senior executives, claimants, and there was a 90% drop in the number of claims people were bringing. And the chilling effect when they brought in the introduction of tribunal fees to claimant lawyers cannot go without, notice. And so suddenly what the track I thought I was on was no longer a sprint, and it turned into a bit of a marathon. And for me, I did exactly what Eric mentioned. I moved to a smaller firm because I was essentially working like a partner, whereas I was bringing all the work, but I had the same target as the partners, with none of the benefits of being a partner. And so for me, that equation didn't make sense to me. And so I had to make a sideways move to go, and I went to a small boutique. And if any of you have ever watched legal dramas, it was very much like The Good Wife, where I went from a firm where everything's nicely done for you, and suddenly they're like, oh, you might need to use a hammer to fix that. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was the best 3 years. It was like an MBA, because it made me completely autonomous, so that I was ready to move into a challenger firm when I decided to do so. In addition to the things that I mentioned earlier, I'm also in the process, because I'm a coach for senior executives, of writing a book called Winning at Work. And a few of those messages that I'm talking about in my book are very pertinent here. And the first is that work isn't fair. And a lot of you, if you've ever been in any church environment, favor isn't fair. So as Eric mentioned, people get partner for a multitude of reasons. You could land a very large client that makes your billables look amazing because it was a friend you went to school with. Equally, like snakes and ladders, you could lose that client and suddenly you're no longer a viable or attractive proposition. So it's important to ensure that you see yourself as a business, and it's a B2B relationship. And what I mean by that is, when you're looking at your offering, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And I think that particularly Black people have always heard you have to work twice as hard. And while I do agree with that, I would say work smart, not necessarily hard, because I see so many Black talent. Part of my practice is a lot of Black senior executives who get burnt out, whether it be in finance or law. They work really hard, they're great technical lawyers, but they haven't invested in the relationships. Or they have one sponsor who leaves, and suddenly all of their prospects have left with that one person. You need to diversify. I say this till I'm blue in the face. It's not enough to be good at your job. I'm a partner because I can land clients, and work comes to me. If I couldn't do that, I would be stuck in being a legal director or a senior associate, because the difference is, when you're a partner, that you are meant to be generating work and giving that work down to other people. So make sure that you are working on your full offering of technical expertise, yes, but what are you doing for business development? What are your client relationships like? I listened to a TED talk that said people with weak ties tend to do better in life. What they mean by that, if you've got a wide pool of people who are disposed to you in a friendly manner, that tends to be much more beneficial than you have a concentrated few who you get on with. So when you're looking at your database, when you're looking at your contacts, are they too concentrated? If one person was to leave, is that you done for? So you have to put that kind of analysis into it, taking away the emotion. You need to look at yourself as a partnership look at you. Should we make you have the keys to the kingdom? And so I think that's a really important thing. Also, to take stock of what you want from the situation. Some people want to stay and become partner, and then they get there and they're miserable. Do you actually know what being a partner entails? Because it's not for everyone. I know lots of people, once they get on the track and they're like, actually, you know what? I just want to be a technical lawyer. So while we're always encouraged in appraisals to say we want to be partner, or we were at least when I was training, and that is important, you also need to do your due diligence about what does that entail, and in that firm, what does partnership look like? Because again, going back to that B2B analogy, what will you get from that scenario? And does that fit with where you want to take your career trajectory? And if not, then you need to have some very difficult conversations with yourself, perhaps with your firm, perhaps speak to some headhunters. But you have to take control of your career. I think the final thing I'll say is that so often in the world of work, and particularly in law, you can kind of just go up sequentially through the years. But those who make partner haven't just landed. Normally, there's always the 5% who are just lucky, but normally it's a measured, considered steps that you've had to take to get there. So do the due diligence, do the hard work, and really think about what partnership means to you and if you truly want it.
That's so helpful, Fidia. Thank you. I think people have this sort of glamorous picture perhaps of partnership and the whole package, but actually don't have the insight as to what it actually entails. So that's been really helpful. Thank you. Solomon, can I come to you, please, next?
Sure. So I at the risk of violently agreeing with everything everybody has said, I really think, looking back at my career path to partnership, intentionality is a really, really important feature in my journey, with a good dose of ignorance, because there are risks I took, and I don't take myself as a risk taker. But I left my firm where I started as a trainee the year I was being considered for partnership. And I left that firm the year I was being considered for partnership because I thought there was a better opportunity and I would get partnership if that opportunity worked. We were doing a startup of a new firm office. I mentioned earlier, Melvin and Myers. And my calculation was that if I and the group of people I was going with, I was the most junior of that team at the time. But I looked around me and the people and myself and said, look, if I'm successful at doing this, then I will get partnership, no doubt about it. And so with that dose of ignorance, I think you have to be intentional about, your career path and chart. And you can only be intentional and make bold decisions if you understand your own value proposition. And so you really need to say, this is what I bring to the table. And if this table is full, like any good cocktail party, you move to another table. So for me, that was the path. I can't say here it was particularly difficult because it was what it was at the time. I'm not a conventional city lawyer prototype. I didn't go to the best schools. I admit my attraction for law is always subsidiary to my attraction for money. I sort of do lots of things unconventionally, but in the end, I understand what my value proposition is, and I'm intentional about how I make my choices.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Solomon. Marcia, please, can I come to you next? The same question.
Sure. I'm probably going to be super quick because, like everyone has said, I agree with you all. And because I'm obviously the last one, I don't know what else I can add. But I suppose the thing I would say is when I look back, for me, when I was thinking about partnership, I would look at the partners who were around me. And for me personally, I'd look at them and I think, I'm as good as you are. Actually, I'm better than you are. And that was my driver. That was the thing that said, if I don't get this, then I'm not going to stay here because you're not worthy of me, right? And that's the way that I used to think. But before I joined KN, I was with one of the big four, and it was, long story short, but it was KN who approached me for me to work there and all the rest of it. And so in a way, that part was quite easy. Where the struggle was when I had to think, well, I don't know, your parents say you're leaving sure for unsure, right? But like I was there and I was thinking, for me personally, it was about where I was going to add value, where I was going to grow more, where I was potentially going to learn more. But at the same time, I looked way down the line and thought, I need to be, I know it's going to sound like a cliche, but I need to be happy where I'm going to be. I need to be me, because I am so proud of my blackness and my culture and everything that I didn't want to move to an environment where I could, I don't know, compromise myself or felt like I was compromising myself. So for me, the next step obviously was going to be partner, but that wasn't it for me. It was, I'm going to be partner somewhere where I'm going to make that firm a lot of money because I'm good at my job. But do I want to be a partner there? But I also wanted to be as authentic as I possibly could, quite frankly. And when you're asking about skills, as far as I'm concerned, as lawyers, if you want to go for the partner thing, then know who you are and what you can bring to the table, as well as what everybody else has said. Sorry, so I know that's really short, but I'm on the coattails of all of these incredible panelists. So yeah.
Really good. No, really helpful. And just being able to be authentic and being true to form and not feeling like you have to be anyone else, that you're not. So that's really helpful and encouraging, actually. My next question, you're all in different sectors, completely varied areas of law, actually. So it would be good to know, actually, what challenges you're facing within your particular sectors so that our members can be aware. So can I actually just come back to you first, Marcia, in what
I'm going to be
Exactly.
So in thinking about this question, like I said, I do corporate immigration, so I help large corporates to move globally around the world and so on. The impact, I think, right across the board is obviously technology, right? I say to my team, and I have no shame about saying this, in my day, there wasn't even the internet. There wasn't mobile phones, like I'm going deep here, right? So when you're in work and your working life, you've got to adapt. You have to adapt, and everything changes so much and everything's so rapid. So I think with law, regardless of what area you're in, it is artificial intelligence that's going to be nipping at your heels. And I think having been practicing for 20 odd years, you have to adapt to the working life. You also have to adapt to the people coming through. So my biggest thing, obviously, is wanting to pass the baton on. I do it all the time, mentoring other people. But part of that is also talking to them about ethics and work ethics and things like that. And I think that, in my opinion, is the real threat, regardless of what area of law you're in. It's AI and getting adaptable to technology and that creeping into your business and thinking ahead and thinking, how can you stay relevant in your practice area?
Yeah, and how are you seeing AI play out in your area?
Yeah, okay. So you're going to depress me now. No, I won't cry in public. So basically what you're seeing is on a global level around the world, the US, the UAE, they're adapting their systems so that it's more technology based. So they don't actually need human beings to file applications for them and things like that. So whereas before it was always human beings, it was us doing the majority of the work. With the influence of AI, you're not going to need that. That's going to take that out. So a lot of large corporates will still want the advisory side of things, but they're not going to want the transactional so much because the transactional will be automated. So you, in my opinion, have to stay at the top of your game in order to continue to advise your large corporates and things like that.
Brilliant, thank you. Solomon, what challenges are you facing in your sector today?
AI, I agree, but that's not my problem. I'll be far retired by then. But I say that flippantly, but it is actually both a threat and I think an opportunity. So currently we at Wilkie have developed a transaction platform that totally revolutionizes the way we deal with secondary transactions. And whilst it didn't start with AI in mind, but we can already see the 2.0. And so firms that are able to adapt and work with technology, I think will triumph. And like most areas of, or most sectors in industry, it will be, human beings working alongside technology. So I'm too old for it to threaten me, but I think it could be my friend whilst I'm practicing. for us, it's, you know, in the investment space, everybody remembers lockdown, COVID, financial markets. Dare I say the amount in the UK specifically, 3 or was it 4 prime ministers in a short space of time, and that budget that crashed the market. So there's been a lot of turbulence, a lot of people unsure about valuations, and when people are unsure, they pause. So in the investment space, there's been a slowdown relative to the activity levels we would normally see, or people buying and selling. But that's fine. You know, again, not to be ageist, but this is probably my 4th or 5th turbulent financial period, and so, you know, it will go past, right? And this keys into just having perspective. I believe I'm still in a sector that is growing. I believe that if I were still a lawyer here in 20 years' time, I will have lots of opportunities to excite myself about. But currently, it's all the financial turbulence in the market.
Thanks so much, Solomon. That's really helpful. Employment law, Fidia, what's going on?
I was thinking about this, and I'm going to use the acronym BAR. So the B stands for Brexit. At the moment, you know, all of the laws have been transposed into UK law, but now that it's subject to the whims of Parliament, and because we've had such political turbulence, lots of the laws that we have derived from the EU, and if we had, you know, a government that felt it needed to win votes by saying we're going to get rid of, you know, this nonsense discrimination laws which are slowing down business or whatever, I could see, perhaps not now, but 5 to 10 years time, you know, there's already some discomfort about the musings of certain politicians about what they want to do about working time, what they want to do about TUPE rules, etc. And so the removal of potential rights, I think, would be very regressive, and I really hope that that's something that doesn't, my spidey sense is wrong on that. The second, the A of the BA, is apathy. Now, as a DEI consultant, when I'm going for doing training for lots of organizations, obviously following the murder of George Floyd, there was a raft. I mean, in 2020, I couldn't turn around without being offered some kind of trusteeship or non-executive director role or something, because there was this need to see like we are getting Black talent in. And a lot of that is waning. And we're seeing actually some reticence, some people saying, well, you know, is this affecting meritocracy? Are we going for the best person if we're so worried about inclusion and diversity? And again, I worry about that being quite regressive, that a lot of the hard fought work to say, actually, it's not enough to say we've got a diverse workforce. Are they actually being included? You know, and is equity more important? You may have heard it's sometimes called DEI, EDI. In America, sometimes they call it JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity and Inclusion. And these letters aren't just because people like playing Scrabble. It's about what's more important. Is the equity more important than the diversity, for example? Because I see often a diverse pool of candidates, but actually, if all the decision makers come from a very homogenous group, are you really even giving a fair shake when they're considering you as a candidate? And that the second out of my BAT acronym is AI, which goes back to what Marcia and Solomon were saying. Now, in my humble opinion, I actually think at my level, AI will be helpful. I hate doing contract reviews. I hate, you know, doing some of the more kind of boilerplate work, which that can do. But I'm in a relationship business. When I'm helping senior executives, when I'm helping a C-suite director with a tricky employment matter, I'm a big Godfather fan. So I consider myself a consigliere to my clients in those situations. And it's about helping them navigate those situations. But that requires strong soft skills. And soft skills are in fact hard skills. And as more of the technical skills can be done by AI, you're going to have to show adaptability. You're going to have to make your own curriculum to make sure you stay in the forefront of what you need to know. You need to be good at communication skills and all the other things we kind of alluded to in the first question. So I see those as being, as Solomon said, not only potential weaknesses or threats, but also great opportunities.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Fidia. And Eric, in the shipping sector, what challenges are you facing?
Yeah, so I specialise in shipping and international trade, as I say, acting predominantly for ship owners and charterers. And I'd agree with the comments of my learned panel about AI. I won't repeat them, but one of the challenges is just keeping abreast of the electronification or digitalization of the industry. Electronic bills of lading, for example, and blockchain. And now I'm no sort of techno geek or techno nerd, but it's the way things are going at the moment. So that is a daily challenge. And on the diversity point that Fudia mentioned, the London Maritime Arbitrators Association, the LMAA, which is the main dispute resolution forum for shipping disputes globally, has acknowledged a lack of diversity in the sector. So on occasion, it can be a surprise to a client to deal with a partner that looks like me, because it's not common at all. And as a result of that, one perhaps has to work harder at establishing a relationship or a rapport as a direct result of that. It's a lot easier to strike up a conversation or a relationship or rapport with somebody who looks like you, who has the same interests as you, etc. So you kind of have to work a bit harder sometimes. But what I would say is that sometimes that can be advantageous, because if service delivery is excellent and all the clients are concerned about is service delivery at the end of the day, then because you are different, you stand out more and can be more memorable. Clients over the years have said to me that they've never forgotten meeting me. And thankfully, so far, that's only ever been in a positive sense. Now, that's the shipping side. On the commodities side, things are a bit different because, for example, I act for a number of commodity traders out of Nigeria and West Africa. So yes, you're dealing with people who look like you, and if I'm dealing with one of my clients in Ghana, we can have a debate about whose jollof rice is better. It's a lot easier to strike up a rapport and a good working relationship just on the basis that you are both familiar with your respective cultures. So I would say those are probably the two that come to mind.
Thanks, Eric. I won't get everyone to vote about whose jollof rice.
No.
Yeah, it was a bit of a conflict. Eric, previously you mentioned having a business plan. So in your journey to partnership and having a clear sort of picture as to what you wanted to do and achieve. So my next question turns on that. And, how can one improve their chances of being offered partnership? And do you need to apply a career strategy over the long term to secure partnership? Can I come to you first, Eric?
Yeah, fantastic question. I would say one of the very clear things that you can do to help your own cause is to hit the deliverables which your firm has set. In fact, scratch that. You probably need to exceed them, because if you meet them, there's always an element of discretion that sometimes is brought to bear. So if you can exceed them, sometimes you can take discretion out of the conversation. And I would say broach the question in your appraisals. So if you're sort of 6-7 years PQE and you're looking at partnership at 8, 9, 10 years PQE, broach that conversation in your appraisals early. And in fact, sometimes I would go as far as to say, don't wait for an appraisal to seek feedback, because the worst thing in the world is, to go a period of 6 months thinking that you're doing really well, and then your appraisal, you get a dressing down. So I would say keep your finger on the pulse in terms of your own learning and development, and make sure you're exceeding deliverables where you can, and have a frank conversation with those around you who are going to have an input in the decision-making process as to your partnership success or not. Develop and maintain your own network of clients. And when I say that, you have to be realistic. It's not feasible in several cases to be on WhatsApp terms with the CEO of a company. But what you can do is get to know your contemporaries within said companies, who will be, the CEOs of the future, and grow up together. Some client relationships, however, are seriously entrenched. So you need to be cognizant of that, and I wouldn't focus too much on trying to disrupt them, because they're so entrenched that basically you won't be successful in that endeavor. So don't be afraid, as Fudia I think mentioned earlier, to forge your own path. Realize that and move on. The business world is big enough for new relationships to be made. And lastly, I would say, have as frank a discussion as possible with your, supervising partner or line manager or equivalent, and try and suss out the playing field. If it looks like it's not going to happen for you, despite, hitting the deliverables, then you need to adapt. And as I said before, sometimes you need to move sideways to move forward.
Thank you. That's brilliant. Solomon, I know you moved Solomon as well when you were becoming partner. So can you think of any sort of ways that you improved your chances of becoming partner, and whether you had a career strategy over the long term? And if you didn't, do you think it's necessary to?
The decision on whether you're made partner is not solely based on you as a candidate. I think you really need to understand that. You're being assessed as a candidate, but the business needs to decide whether it needs to make an investment or expand. So you may be the perfect candidate, but the business decides we don't have the confidence or the money or whatever to make the investment at this point in time. Absolutely nothing to do with you. So I think there are two sides to the question of becoming a partner. And whilst you can do everything possibly helpful in your advantage to make sure you're ready, I think it's really important to understand that it is not just you that is being assessed. The business also is being assessed, because that then helps you think around what your where your commonalities meet you and your objectives, and the business and its objectives, right? I did move, like I say, the year I was considering for partnership. It was being totally candid, because I'm always honest. If I'm being totally candid, a huge dose of ignorance. I really saw an opportunity I loved. Go and start up a new office of a US firm. It helped that they threw lots of money at me, and it helped that I was going with people I enjoyed working with. But in the end, looking back, I had to back myself and take charge of the trajectory of my own career path. Like I say, that's hindsight. If I were doing that today, maybe there'll be ums and ahs, but ultimately, I think the message I get from the experience is you have to be intentional and deliberate with your choices.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Can I come to you, Marcia, next, please? Same question.
Yeah, sure. I just keep saying the same thing. I agree with what everyone said. The thing I often say to people I work with, or people who come to me for advice, is I say, do the job you want, right? So if you're doing the job that you want, no one can't tell you no. That is literally, I know it's very black and white, but that's the way I see it. So for me, I think it's I get everything. You've got to have a good client base. You've got to show the business that you're worth the investment, following on sort of from what Solomon's saying, and knowing that you're building your own book of business so that when you are going for partnership, if they say no, they'd have to explain to me why no, right? Why no? Why can't I? If I've touched all of the metrics that you've set up for me, tell me why I can't do this, you know? I'm full equity at KN, right? Which is the inner core of whatever you call it. And so that's the way that I operate. You've got to tell me why I can't do it. And if you're not going to give it to me, I want to put timelines around it. Do you know what I mean? Because I do actually think that if you want it, yeah, you've got to go for it. And if you're somewhere that's not going to give it to you, go somewhere else. Because if you believe in your worth and if you believe in yourself, sorry, I do think go somewhere else that will give it to you. Sorry, I know it's a really basic answer, but yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Marcia. Very fair. Thank you. Vidya, can I come to you next on the same question?
Short but sweet. I agree. You know, I agree with everybody. All I would say is the kind of supplementary is that if you're treating yourself like a business with your own P&L, with your own business plan, even if they say there, and Solomon's quite right, and it goes back to what I said, you know, work isn't fair, that there may be reasons at, you know, management level, maybe they're thinking, so often firms say, oh no, we're not thinking about a merger, no, not at all. And then a week later, you hear they're merging. There may be, you know, reasons that are above your pay grade why they don't want to promote you at that time. But if you are doing everything you need to do as a partner, either if you really want to stay there, you know, try and build your power base and see what's happening, or else you can go and have your offering. But in the words of the late, great Nipsey Hussle, you have to stay ready so you don't need to get ready. If you're constantly doing all the right things, then the right results will follow, whether it be at that firm or a firm elsewhere.
Brilliant. That's really helpful. Thanks so much. So I think, yeah, good themes I'm picking up on. Talking about getting into it, staying, it's one thing actually getting to partnership, isn't it? But it's another thing staying on. It's a tough job. We've spoken about some of the challenges, and you've spoken about, you know, Eric, your colleague, even having to seek professional help. So what truly motivates you all to show up every day and do this job? Aside from having perhaps a really good pay packet, but you know, that's one thing. Vidya, can I come to you first?
I would say one, sheer stubbornness, in the sense that, you know, as the product of African parents, it was like, you know, I was squeamish with blood. I'm not good with numbers. So law seemed like a good fit. But, you know, all jokes aside, I love what I do. I love helping people. You know, I chose an area that brings a passion in me. And so that was something. And I'm doing my career on my terms. And I think if you're not passionate about it, and then you listen to everybody else, and I know Solomon jokes that he was passionate about the money, but there was still passion there. So passion is really important in whatever you choose to do. So make sure that you feel aligned from your values, etc., with law, because it's a hard job. You know, we deal with a high pressurized job. And I've just seen Melissa's question, you know, there's lots of microaggressions. And if we had another hour, I could tell you all the stories of, you know, the N words I've heard and the things that have been done, whether it be to myself or my clients. But I'm hoping to pass on my legacy. I always try and help Black talent as I go in my career, so that there's more opportunities as we go forward. So that those like Marcia and Solomon, who were the first of, will not be the last of. And I'm doing something that I find passionate. And if I cease to enjoy it, then I need to stop doing what I'm doing, because life's too short.
So good. Yeah, life's too short. Solomon, can I come to you next? What keeps you doing this every single day?
Love for the money. No, I'm joking. So actually, love for the money doesn't cut it, because once you get past your utility, once you pay the bills, there was a point as a senior associate, I was calculating by the hour, I was earning less than the guy stuck in the shelves at Tesco's, because I was just spending so much time at work, right? So I fully agree and will concur with passion. I love what I do. I'm fortunate to love what I do. I've always been interested by business. As I went through the process, I loved the idea of creating businesses. I love the idea of helping people create their businesses. And that's actually what has kept my passion. I, as a trainee, I hated real estate law. Sorry for those people that are real estate lawyers. And I was the first trainee of my firm that was seconded to Marks and Sparks legal department to work on their real estate portfolio. Absolutely enjoyed the experience. Lunchtime was immaculate. M&S food. They were, showing their next season's, fashion during break time. I absolutely enjoyed it and thought I would be an in-house lawyer because I enjoyed the experience so much, and absolutely came away learning nothing about real estate law. In fact, the people there told, their report back was, this guy is great, but will never be a real estate lawyer. And it was on my sleeve. I love working and I love the business aspect. And so I thought I would go into that aspect. But the more I developed in my career path, I realized actually that I didn't want to do what my clients were doing on their day-to-day and looking at spreadsheets, but I enjoyed the idea of creating the business for them and with them, and stuck in the law firm ever since. So I think you have to keep an open mind. There are so many opportunities now that rank equally with being a partner in a law firm, and therefore the career path is not one track anymore. So you have to go with what you love, and you really have to go with what resonates with you, because after a while, the money fades. And I know people say it because you've got money, yeah, probably, but the money fades away, and what is remaining is your passion for what you do.
Thank you. That's a ongoing theme, passion. Eric and Marcia, do you have more to add? But please do, if you do. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
I'll do mine quickly. I'm the same. I think after having done this for 20 odd years, it definitely is the passion. But what I like more, even more than that in a way, is building high performance teams. Is I continuously talk about handing over this baton, right? I want, and I have done it, being able to talk to my team, being able to talk to others and teaching them and supporting them and mentoring them and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I really enjoy, and training people and stuff. I often say I like people. I'm a people person. That is where I get my buzz from. And I love to see people progress. I absolutely love it. And that's what makes me get up every day and go into the office. And like I said at the very beginning, I was the first black partner. We got loads now. You know what I mean? And like, that's the buzz for me. That is the buzz for me. That is being authentic and all that kind of stuff. But sharing that passion with people and teams and mentoring and stuff. So yeah, Eric, you go.
I don't really have all that much to add, to be honest. I'll be very quick. I love my job. And it's a cliche, but they say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I'm very fortunate that with the type of lawyer that I am, I get to meet clients from all over the world, different cultures. I love meeting new people and winning new work. So, that's what motivates me. That's what keeps me happy. But also, I think as one of the few black partners, certainly in the maritime space, I look at it as a bit of a responsibility as well. I'll never forget what a junior lawyer said to me a while ago. He'd recently joined the firm. I think he's around, he was around 2 years PQE at the time, and said, gosh, it's good to meet you. It's good to see you. Someone that looks like me. And no one had ever said that to me before. But, I went home that night and thought about what he'd said to me. And this guy's specialism was tax. I mean, he was interested in tax, couldn't be further away from what I do. But just, having a black person in the firm who was a partner as well was surprising. And his comment a few days later was, if I can do it, then so could he. that was hugely inspiring, and it is something that motivates me to show up to work every day.
Thank you. That's been really, really inspiring. And I just love the passion that I'm hearing, and that you all love what you do. And I think we'll have to take that strap line. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life again. Martha, you touched briefly earlier about being a full equity partner. It would be really helpful, actually, if you guys can quickly touch upon what the financial risks are actually of joining partnership. I think people always often associate partnership with the financial rewards, but actually, what are any potential risks that associated to being partner? If you could touch on quickly, that would be great.
Sure. I am obviously conscious of the time, so I'll do it really quickly. But quite significantly, in 2014, the UK HMRC, they kind of changed the contributions or whatever it was for partnerships. So the reason why they did that was because they felt that partners were it was just disguised employment, really. And so your financial contribution as a partner was a lot higher than before 2014. And there were certain criteria that you had to satisfy to say, I don't know, my contribution to the firm or my buy-in would be 25 grand or 50 grand and things like that. Whereas before it was very nominal because you would have salaried partners and things like that. And so it's just your levels of contribution that you put into the firm. And like I said, I'm a full equity partner, so my contribution to Kington Epley is humongous, quite frankly. But following on what Solomon said, so are the rewards, to be quite frank. So you have, you know, junior partners, senior partners, and all those kinds of different levels. So, you know, my thought would be just knowing what the financial contribution is. So when you are looking at it and going for it, understand that side as well, because in certain firms it can be quite significant. It's not as, you know, minor as it was pre-2014 because of the HMRC rules. So, you know, think about that as well. Solomon, do you want to add something else because you're more experienced than me?
No, spot on. I think this is also a question about, you know, when you're preparing for partnership, you really need to understand the business you're going into, because you are now a part owner of that business. And therefore, if somebody asked you, do you want to buy this Claptrack Ford Cortina 1976? You'd probably say no, because you know you don't want to do all the maintenance. In the same way, you need to look at a firm and say, do I want to put my money here, not just my career? And by the way, it's money that is not earning interest. So it's really, over the last 10 years, I think we can all call one significant law firm in the UK that is no longer in existence. And most of the partners in those law firms lost their capital in the firm, some of which go to 6-figure sums, some 7-figure sums. So we're talking real money here. And it is important that you, not to scare you, but the important point is you understand the nature of the business you're about to buy into. Part of your evaluation of whether you want to be a partner in that partnership.
Thank you.
Can I just add something very quickly, that as the employment lawyer, you lose employment as an employee, you have the greatest protection in law. When you become self-employed, you lose unfair dismissal rights. It's much harder to pursue most claims, even proving discrimination. Only recently that you've had judgments involving even Clyde & Co. that you showed that a partner can blow the whistle or pursue certain discrimination claims. So you're far more vulnerable. The restrictive covenants you have in your contract tend to be far more onerous. And because it's seen as a relationship of equals in a partnership, more likely to be enforceable. So again, if you're off sick as an employee, there's protections that you don't have as a partner. And the reason you see all those partners looking frantic at the annual remuneration committee meetings is because that makes or breaks what their drawings are going to be for the year. And the end goes back to needing to know the numbers in your figures. Can you sustain being a partner? Because one good year does not make a partner. You need to be thinking about, can you show to yourself year-on-year growth? Because otherwise, you could earn a lot less as a partner than you would earn as a senior associate, with a lot less protection in law.
Wow.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
I think most, you know, I certainly wasn't aware, so thank you. Eric, do you have anything to add to that question?
No, not really. I think all the points have been touched upon. Obviously, there are different strata of partner. You've got salaried partner, fixed share partner, full equity, and capital contribution, if any, will depend on the firm and the firm's particular structure. So at a well-run firm, the risk should be explained clearly to you. But to echo what Solomon said, I think you've got to understand the nature of the beast that is partnership. So there will be financial exposure. To go into or to contemplate taking partnership without being cognizant of that, I think would not be a good idea.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm conscious of the time, but we've got one final question, which is more of an encouragement to our members watching today. So for those who might be feeling overwhelmed or as though they could never get to partnership, what advice would you give them, to sort of encourage them to become partner? Can I go to you first, Solomon, please?
You have to want it. You just have to want it. And if you want it, then you look yourself and say, what do I do to get it? One thing I've always been resolute about is sort of crossing that Rubicon. Was I may not be the smartest in the room, but I will damn as well outwork anybody in the room. And that was going to be my route to be noticed. So you find your why, you find your how, and you will get it.
Brilliant, amazing, thank you. Eric, what are your tips?
So someone watching today who feels like they could never get to partnership, I would say sort of interrogate why you feel like that. One of the points that was made, I think, by Marcia, was that partnership isn't for everyone. So it's very much a case of know thyself. But if you know it is for you, and you know that you're good enough, and you have self-doubt, that's okay as well. We're allowed to doubt ourselves from time to time. It's very rare that anyone has supreme confidence. But if you're feeling like that, I would suggest taking comfort from what you've done thus far to be in a position to even contemplate taking such a step. And if you do decide to take that step, then to shamelessly finish on my firm's slogan, simply put your best foot forward.
Amazing, thank you. Fadia, any final tips and thoughts?
Not much more to add, but I think due diligence, know who you are, what you can bring to the table. If you really want it, you have to believe that you can achieve it, because if you have no self-belief, you won't be able to materialize it. And when you mix passion with head, you make dreams come true. So I hope that we've offered some fruit for you guys today.
Thank you. And last but not least, Marcia, have you got any final thoughts?
All I'd actually add, right, and I said it before, in my day, there wasn't all of these resources. There wasn't like you lovely people here that you could talk to. To me, reach out, talk to somebody, say, why should I be doing this? Get your mentors, do all of that, because people love it. They will be so happy to be asked questions and stuff like that. And so to me, you have all got loads of resources at your hands. Trust me, you've got loads of resources. Use those resources and seek guidance whenever you want to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just 1 minute for the chat, if you don't mind, just to see what questions there are, if you can hang on for a few minutes. Thank you, Solomon. You've already answered the question on what secondary transactions are. Melissa had a question about how you protect your mental health, which is really important right now, and well-being. Does anyone want to pick that up really quickly on mental health and well-being? Go for it, Eric.
I'll just offer, my quick advice, and one of my panel members actually mentioned it already, but I would suggest putting a time scale on things. You don't want to be one of these people who's offered partnership and be drifting into the abyss. Have a time scale, because if you drift like that, your mental health is going to decline. There needs to be a cutoff point where you decide to do something. Whatever that something is a matter for you, but you've got to do something, whether that's move firm or do something else, you know, but put a time scale on things.
Can I just add briefly to that? It's support. I've always had a work spouse, family, friends, my actual husband, I think he deserves mention, parents, you know, other Black lawyers, you know, having a diverse range of people that you can share your experience with and who can give you advice and kind of mentoring. Also, if you can get a mentor, you know, support.
Yeah.
And also, really quickly from me, it's okay to say no. If you can't do it, just say no. Sorry. Like, in my day, I was an idiot. I used to say yes to everything, and I did loads, and you know. But now, just say no. Sorry, like a drugs thing. Just say no, but just say no. Yeah,
that's really helpful. Quick question again from Hinwa on actually balancing work-life balance and personal and family life with work. I think that's a really good question. Time management. Anyone want to pick that up really quickly?
I guess because I've got 2 under 5, it probably makes sense. I've literally had to put a kettlebell behind my door so they can't break into this session. But I would say it's difficult. I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe you have priorities and they shift depending on what's most urgent at that particular time. And as a lawyer, you have to be flexible. I can write a to-do list now and tomorrow something else will go cataclysmic on something else, and I need to be flexible. So just accepting the unexpected is part of your job. Again, support, family, friends. If you have to hire somebody to offer support, build your village.
Yeah, brilliant. Anyone else want to add to that really quickly? Conscious of time. If
I
not,
just completely agree. We've all talked about our passion. We've all talked about the fact that we love what we do, right? So there's your balance. Do you know what I mean? And then you control it, and that's it.
got a final question on business development. What tips you might have on that? If anyone wants to pick it up very, very quickly, if possible.
I met a guy a few years ago, and he said to me, look, I feel like a fish out of water at my firm. I said to him, well, why is that? And he says, well, I feel like we don't have very much in common. So I said, okay, who are your friends outside of work? And he says, well, I grew up in South London and I go to church every Sunday, and so I hang around with the people at church. I go, okay, after that, who do you deal with outside your people at church? And as we counted down, there are not that many people outside his church group that he deals with. I think therein the problem. If you want to talk about business development, you have to look at your network. You look at the people you know as a starting point. And if that is narrow, and maybe seek some objective assessment of what your diversity looks like within your business network, start there. Because the more people you know, the more business development will begin to make sense for you. The opportunities just bring themselves to you.
100%. 100%. I don't, most of my work comes through word of mouth. And that's what you hope for. Like in a relation, I mean, when you're acting with senior executives, that's very much part and parcel. When you're acting with corporate, it's a bit different. But, you know, have as many weak ties, as I mentioned earlier, as possible. So you've got a wide range of people you can ask for. But it may sound contradictory, also getting where you fit in. If you go to somewhere, you're in a chamber choir, go to the City of London Chamber Choir, make connections there. Whatever your hobbies or passions are, use them to get clients and people who will refer work to you.
This is a network. We've created one already. In the last hour, I'm going to give work to everybody, all of you lot, where I can. Simple.
I love that. Amazing. That's all we're here for. Fantastic. So good. There are no more questions in the chat, but I think it leaves me to thank you all so much, Fidia, Marcia, Eric, and Solomon, for your time and your insights. It's been absolutely amazing. And it would be remiss of me to try to summarize everything we've heard here in just a few minutes. So just want to encourage everyone to watch this back. It will be on YouTube in a couple of days. And thank everyone, our members, for joining us today. And do stay in touch via our various platforms on social media. YouTube, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and everything else, I think, under the sun, apart from TikTok yet. But I wish you all an amazing evening, and thank you again for joining. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye all.
Thank you very much.